What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Pickswise High Stakes live stream. My name's Howard Bender. With me, of course, Craig Mish. And we are here on a Friday night getting ready to throw down some picks for the Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge as well as the Westgate Super Contest. Craig, it's a nightmare out there. That's the best I can come up with here. It's a disaster. How in the world are we navigating through this?
You know what's interesting is that, I guess it feels like it in a different way. But do you remember when, of course you remember, but back in 2020 in March when all the sports shut down and there was just like this is done and this is done and this is canceled and this is done. And it's sort of, it kind of came out of nowhere. And in a different way, I'm not an alarmist, but in a different way, it sort of feels like that, Howard, because you and I were here 1 week ago, and we never had a clue that all of this was happening. There were a couple of cases here and there, right, and some players were out, but we had no idea that, the Florida Panthers aren't going to be playing for 2 weeks in hockey. I just didn't see this coming. And people are playing for $1 million in the Super Contest. So someone is going to get real lucky this year. And in fantasy, someone's going to win a championship that's going to be real lucky. And then, yeah, there's a huge amount of luck that goes into this anyway. But to say that it's a struggle to make picks for games on a Sunday night, Monday night, or Tuesday night is extremely difficult. So we're going to do the best we can with it. Maybe luck will be on our side. Maybe we'll have a 4-0 or 5-0 week in the Super Contest. Maybe we'll go 5-2 or 6-1 in the Golden Nugget. But when we come back here on Tuesday, I think it's going to be better to be lucky than good.
Probably. If we're back here on Tuesday, it's going to be in the middle of a game, right? Because
that's true. That is true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Right. 2 games on Monday, 2 games on Tuesday. If you're just joining us, obviously the Raiders against the Browns has been postponed from Saturday to Monday. Right. The Rams Seahawks has been pushed from Sunday to Tuesday, and the Eagles Washington football team has been pushed from Sunday to Tuesday as well. You can go over to fantasyalarm.com/COVID and get the full rundown of everybody who's out. So whether you're betting or you're playing fantasy or you're doing DFS, that's going to be your one-stop shop because there's a lot of news. But for our purpose here, listen, our Golden Nugget picks, they're already in, right? We are past the deadline here for the Golden Nugget. We have made our 7 selections. So let's just get right to it here. Let's get down and dirty. We'll start off with the college games that we've got. We've taken 2 college games here. The first one, Liberty against Eastern Michigan. Now, we targeted against Liberty real early on in the season. Mm-hmm. I think it was the third or the fourth week of the season. I think we had a game going against Liberty, them not covering the spread. We're doing the same. We're going Eastern Michigan.
That one. I think we may have lost that. I think they blew out Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State, who won today, outright as 10-point favorites. So what is the lesson to be learned? This is virtually the same every normal college football season. And by the way, what this is going to look like next week, I have no idea. But in general, just sort of the way to bet these bowl games, there are 42 games, is, there's a lot of keys to it. We could go over a couple. The first is obviously you have a lot of kids who have opted out of the game and they're not playing. So you have to know, based on the steam, based on the way that the lines have moved, why they have moved. And you got to look at the opening line versus now. In a contest we're looking at the line right now, versus 2 days ago versus now. That's a big part of what's happening. So we've had some, like Pitt's quarterback, Kenny Pickett, has opted out of the game. He's going to be a first-round pick in the draft next year. So obviously Pittsburgh is not a team to back going into the bowl game. But another strategy that you can employ is, and look, we do this in the NFL, but with these games very early on, and we've seen it looks like both underdogs, by the way, the 2 bowl games are going to cover today, and we have a Middle Tennessee that's already won outright, is backing the underdogs. Backing the underdogs early early up until the point where it starts to turn into the 27th, 28th of December. Because at that point, Howard, the variance is different. You have the good teams playing in the good bowl games at that point, and they're more likely to cover as opposed to these kids in these schools that have just never played in a bowl game, or they're playing in a game that they don't even want to be in. And it could go either way. So therefore, you take the points in that spot. Now, of course, there'll be some blowouts along the line. But this week and next week, when we do our picks, the one thing that you will see is several underdogs that we will be taking. So that will definitely be the case here. Eastern Michigan is the first underdog that we're going to take. They're getting almost 10 points. They started off the season. I thought they started off the season as a potential conference winner and playing in a game that was not December 17th, or I'm sorry, December 18th, 2021, maybe along the lines of the 23rd, 24th. But here they are after losing 3 in a row. Liberty had a good year as well. I just think this is too many points. And, simply put, it's not a great matchup for Eastern Michigan. But if we're just going to follow suit based on taking underdogs of 6 or more points in the first 2 weeks, and the percentage is very high in terms of cover, my recommendation would be on Eastern Michigan, who we are going to take there. That's our pick, the first pick.
All right, the second pick, we're going to stay on the underdog side. 7 points we're getting here. Old friend of ours, Utah State.
Yep.
They're going up against Oregon State. Now, Utah and Utah State have both been very good to us this year. So right off the bat, I love the pick.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State had a nice year. They're back in a bowl game again. They've had some really tough years, but Utah State down the stretch was one of the better teams in college football and blowing teams out. I'm not really sure why this line is so high. I mean, you could easily put Utah State in the Pac-12. Had a good year to end the season, and again, as 20-point favorites were winning by 30, and as underdogs were covering and winning easily. So, this is one of those situations where, yes, this is important for Oregon State because they don't get to bowl games very often. Let's not confuse them with Oregon, who will play in a couple of weeks. But we will back Utah State once again here. And again, just as a whole, if there are 6 games tomorrow, which there are in the college bowl games, one of them involves an FCS game, so I don't want to include that. But of the 6 games that will go off tomorrow, my guess is 4 or 5 underdogs are going to cover in this thing. It's just the nature of the early part of the bowl season. But don't get sucked into that, because once the calendar turns, and here's an easy thing: if you recognize the name of the school and you're an average college football fan, at that point it's time to stop backing the underdogs, because some of the good teams are going to show up and they're going to have purpose and they're going to win. So, and we'll get to that, not next week, but the week after.
Sage advice. If you start to recognize the school, you want to avoid. All right, so 2 college picks there: Eastern Michigan and Utah State. Love that. Let's talk about the NFL games that we're looking at. First and foremost, we are taking the Saturday game. That's why our picks are already locked in there. Is that the Colts -2 against the Patriots? Again, I feel like when somebody looks at this line, just your everyday guy, Patriots getting points. They're the best team in the AFC. How in the world? Like you'd have to be an idiot not to take those points. The line to me is screaming for me to take the Colts in this one, and we are going to go with a favorite here, and we're going to take the Colts. It's only -2 here in the Golden Nugget.
Yeah, I think the other part of it that does factor in for me, and one of the reasons why, at least in one of the 2 contests, we're going to do this, and you can follow this advice in fantasy too, is I got to be honest with you. If we have a decent opinion of a known game versus an unknown game, I think I want to back the known game here. And even if, let's say, on a scale of 1 to 10, what our confidence level, let's say, Howard, it's a 6.5, and we like something else that's on Tuesday at 8.5. I mean, who's to say that these players are going to be playing in these games by then? I just don't know. So as we go through it, I do have some concerns now on the Monday night game. And so it was a game that I did like quite a bit, as we talked about. Monday Night Dogs have just been unbelievable this year. But, COVID issues are tough here. So, yeah, Colts are the first of 5 NFL games for the Golden Nugget contest.
All right. Now, the next game here, I'm just going to go down by the ticket, is a game. It was the last one that we were going to do. We were thinking about taking the Raiders because it was only a 1.5 that they were giving in the matchup. But the rules of the Golden Nugget say that if the game does not take place within 24 hours of the original start time, then you can't take that game, which tells everybody what? You can't take the Eagles. You can't take the Washington football team. You can't take the Raiders or anything. So we pivoted off of that.
Right.
And we're going with the big dog here. We're going with the narrative of teams who are on their third straight road game, only covering 30 to 35% of the time, right? I mean, it's kind of an interesting little number there. I dig it. I know it's Mike Glennon, and I know it's the Giants, but they're going up against Dallas here, and Dallas is, they've kind of been struggling for a bit of an identity themselves over the last couple of weeks. So we'll take the points.
Yeah, the Giants last week were really interesting because they were getting blown out for the majority of the game. But it just goes to show you in the NFL, when you're laying 10 points with a team, how dangerous that could be. So I don't know if you caught the end of this, but with a minute to go, the Giants had the ball on the 30-yard line of the Chargers with the back door wide open.
I was waiting for it.
And it was right there. And so, I mean, that's definitely part of the thinking here is that's a lot of points to lay in an NFL game. The Cowboys are notoriously awful in laying big numbers. And so you have to have a short memory in this league. The odds of a team not showing up 2 weeks ago are seemingly slim. We're not asking Mike Glennon to win the game. We're just asking him to cover the spread. So we'll take the Giants plus 10.5 here.
All right. Next game, which is actually probably my favorite game that we're taking. Give me the Steelers getting 1.5 here against the Titans. And this is something that you've talked about over and over again, how bad the Steelers looked on a primetime game that everybody watched. Dalvin Cook just carve them up like a turkey. And so the Titans, the offensive line is not the same as Minnesota, and Deonta Foreman is nowhere near Dalvin Cook, but everybody's like the Titans. They're, what are they, 8-4, and they're going to be great against the Steelers. No.
Yeah, pretty big overreaction, I think, to the Steelers, and I think even a bigger overreaction. Like, how are you feeling now that Tennessee shut out Urban Meyer and Urban Meyer got fired 3 days later, right? Like, so, I don't know that was much of an accomplishment at all now looking back on it. And that's not to say that Tennessee isn't good, but to me, they are just not the same team without Derrick Henry. And the Steelers being a home dog in an NFL game, like, I mean, against a team that's not like Tampa Bay or something like that, is seemingly stunning. They won 2 weeks ago. They beat Baltimore. Like, I don't know. I don't get this one. So the line is switched now, and it's basically a pick 'em, and so there is some money coming in on Pittsburgh, but we'll take the 2 points. I do think Pittsburgh has a phenomenal chance to win this game outright, so I think that is the right side.
Me too. All right, we're going to take a little walk down Narrative Street for our next pick, and that is that teams who fire their coach in season, the next game back, they're either winning outright or even at least just covering that spread between 60 and 65% of the time, right in that range. So give me those Jaguars laying 3.5 points to the Texans. I mean, listen, both teams are putrid. Both teams are absolutely putrid, but Jacksonville's pretty psyched to be getting rid of Urban Meyer right now. So
yeah, I think unfortunately for us, we're sort of in a no-win situation with this game. I kind of feel like it was funny that you emailed me Houston, and then 10 minutes later you're like, oh, Urban Meyer fired. Nope, not doing that. I may have been sleeping or something. I don't know, but I remember like seeing one email and then the next. I'm like, oh, okay. So the reason why I think this is unfortunate for all the contests is I would anticipate, given the nature of the COVID games, Howard, of Jacksonville being the most picked game in probably both contests. The line has moved at least 1.5 points. If you watched any of the interviews today, it is very evident that they're going to be motivated, very highly motivated, it looks like, to win this game. So I do think Jacksonville is the right side, and I do think that they're going to win. But this is probably one of those that we'll feel good about, but will not matter a lot in the standings. So my feeling is Jacksonville, when we wake up tomorrow, is going to be the number one pick game in the Super Contest.
That's why we've got the Steelers and the Giants and the Colts.
Got to have some other contrarian picks. But yeah, we got to get our wins. Got to get our wins.
Absolutely. All right, final game here. The Bengals in the Golden Nugget. They're getting 3 points um, against Denver. I don't even understand this line. Like usually we get to do the show on Tuesday and we didn't get to. Like I was very eager to hear your thoughts on Denver as a favorite over the Bengals, and now this has gone from Denver -1.5 to Denver -3 in the Nugget. It's 2.5 in the Super Contest, but still.
Yeah, look, Denver again. We took Denver last week. Okay, so we took them, and they came through for us relatively easy, and they're very good when they have a lead and they're up 14 and they just keep handing the ball off. Yes, that is not going to be the case against a good team. I just don't think so. And, again, Cincinnati was never as good as we thought they were 2 weeks ago. They're not as bad as we've seen the last couple of weeks. I think Cincinnati has a phenomenal chance to make the playoffs. I think they're a team that could do damage in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But there's 18 games in the regular season, and there's going to be ebbs and flows, and teams are going to not cover 2 or 3 games in a row. I think Cincinnati had that happen. Just a couple of weeks ago, Cincinnati was were they huge favorites against Baltimore? I don't remember. What was the game that they were favorites and they got smashed? We went against them. Oh, is it the Chargers? It was the Chargers, right?
It was the Chargers. No. Wow. I mean, listen, we've had a rocky history here with Cincinnati. We had them in the game against Green Bay where neither kicker could kick a field goal.
But that we could have had that easily. Yeah, that was fine. But what I'm saying is we had the Chargers getting points at Cincinnati 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And the Chargers smoked them, right?
Yeah.
So the tide is going to turn here. Cincinnati's now going to go back on their run. Denver's going to go back to being who they were supposed to be. Look, the Lions were so up against it last week. And they even had the ball a few times at the end of the game with a chance to cover there. It's just, Goff was making all kinds of mistakes. Bottom line is, again, I think Cincinnati slump ends. Cincinnati, I think, wins the game easily. I think Cincinnati is able to move the ball up and down the field.
I agree. Wholeheartedly. Those are the 3 picks that I think that I like the most: the Steelers, the Jags, and the Bengals.
I think Cincinnati stuck out right away as a team that that you are. It's a great buy low right now on the Bengals. They're not as bad as they have played, and they weren't as good when they were winning those games a few weeks ago. When they were blowing Pittsburgh out. Oh, Cincinnati's amazing. No, they're not. 1 week.
And where were we on them against the Jets, right? That was their 3rd straight road game in that stretch that we didn't even hone in on until after the fact. Oh, I was in Vegas at that point, wasn't I? Oh yeah, maybe that's what it was. All right, so those are our picks for the Golden Nugget, right? We got Eastern Michigan and Utah State. We got the Colts laying 2, the Giants getting 10.5, Steelers getting 1.5. We're laying 3.5 with the Jags. And we're getting 3 with the Bengals. So sticking with our underdog plan here, it's definitely worked out very well for us throughout the season. So we'll continue it. Now we're going to take Steelers, Jags, and Bengals. We're going to carry those over to the Super Contest. The Steelers and the Jags, that line stays the same. Bengals are getting 2.5.
2.5, yeah.
2.5 in this one instead of 3.
That's a bummer, but
it is. Too bad we can't buy that half point.
I think they win the game outright, so I'm not worried about that.
I do too. So now we have to take a look at 2 more games. And, Craig and I, we talked about the Giants, right? They're getting 11 here in the Super Contest.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other one that really I think we need to kind of talk through is the Bears. Monday night home dog, when it was Minnesota -3.5, when the lines, when it all came out, I said immediately, I'm like, Monday night home dogs.
Yeah.
Now, the Bears have been dealing with some COVID. Bill Lazor, their offensive coordinator, is on the list. Allen Robinson and a small handful of other players are also out for the Bears. The lines jumped to Minnesota -6.
Yeah, I saw 5.5. I saw 5.5 as the highest. Now, when lines jump like this, and I don't see major players missing, it tells me that maybe we don't know something about this game, where something more is to come potentially. And I want to get to the COVID games too, affected games in just a minute. But I do like the Bears. as a home dog, whether it is 4 or 5 or even 6. Absolutely, home dogs have been great on Monday night. Bears hung tight with Green Bay for about like 2 quarters, 3 quarters last week.
Yeah.
Minnesota's down to the wire in every single game. They could win by a field goal in this game. Cousins in general, night games, not very good. Like, these are all things playing into our favor. But the news today, let me just update just to make sure. The news today on Andy Dalton is alarming. Okay, because as we saw with Washington and as we saw with Cleveland, when one quarterback goes down, Howard, there's a chance the other one goes down. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Bears have Nick Foles as their backup to Fields. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. So if you were to tell me that Fields was not going to play on Monday night, I could not back Chicago, even with Foles. I couldn't do it, man. Like, I think it could be a disaster at that point, and I think Minnesota may win big. Foles has not gone into many games. He has he played 2 quarters this year or 3 quarters? I'm not even sure.
I don't know. I don't think he has.
It would feel like a Washington situation. It would feel like a Ben DiNucci situation with Dallas last year.
DiNucci.
Yeah, man. Like, I couldn't do it. So the thing is this, for this live stream, is we're going to back the Bears as our 5th pick in the Super Contest, but we absolutely are reserving the right tomorrow by 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, when Howard has to send the picks in, to change, because I don't know that we could take the Bears not knowing what's going to happen, because we could get hammered on Sunday afternoon with that, and then and there's no room to even really where would they put the Bears game? Like, just one day would they delay it? Like, what would that even do? I'm not even sure. So I'm hopeful that doesn't happen. Track record in Washington and track record in Cleveland is telling you have to really be on alert for the Bears quarterbacking situation on Monday night.
Yeah. You definitely do. All right, so there was another. I was looking at the Panthers, right? Matt Barkley, their backup. He's got it. So now you worry about Cam and you worry about PJ Walker and what happens with that.
It's terrible to have to worry about this stuff.
So then what? I mean, if we're sitting there, if there's concern, do we just take Minnesota and lay the 4?
I think we just move away from the game. So then
where do we go?
Well, we'll have to figure something else out for Sunday. Again, whatever is probably right in front of us is going to be better than what's, we're not going to be able to see the forest through the trees this week. Like, I think we just have to pick something for Sunday and just try to, like, have a confidence meter of somewhere between 6 or 7 out of 10 if we can. I think that we made it pretty clear that the Bengals on a confidence meter is going to be like an 8 or 9 this week for us. The Steelers is going to be an 8 or 9. And then, then the rest of the picks probably a little bit less than that. But listen, out of 5 games in the NFL, if anybody tells you their confidence meter is 10 out of 10 on 5 games, just hit the stop button on YouTube and go to somewhere else, because no one knows what they're talking about if that's the case. So
the problem is those other games that we're looking at, I mean, the spreads are crazy.
They're insane. They're insane. I'll tell you, Detroit is a team that I potentially would back. That's one dog at least. On the flip side, the Jets have not covered anything. I'm starting to think Miami maybe is a possibility, and I hate doing that, but I mean, Miami's kind of proven themselves at this point, coming off a bye, relatively healthy. The Jets are playing horrible. Like, I mean, maybe Miami is a possibility there.
But if Lamar Jackson gets ruled out, you got Tyler Huntley there, who looked okay.
It was okay.
Do you turn to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? I mean, if that line is, what is it? I think in the contest it's like -5.5. What does that line go to in reality here?
The Ravens are the best betting underdog in history. It's like that's going against a massive trend. Even last week, Howard, it was like we were texting at halftime. We're dead. Ravens come all the way back. It was like no problem. Like, I hate betting against the Ravens as an underdog. I mean, they make their kicks, man. They make all their kicks. So they're always going to be within a kick of covering. And I don't want to bet against the Ravens as an underdog of that magnitude. And I don't care who they have at quarterback. I'd love to find another game if we could.
I would love to find another game too. We don't have any.
We don't have that luxury.
I can't. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, listen, I can't. Like Detroit's not a team I can get behind. I can't. They've got one win. What else do they need to do? They're not. There's no pride there. There's not. They're
so
done.
Who else are we missing?
We're not missing a lot here. Bills, Panthers. Bills are 10.5-point favorite. We said Dolphins, Jets, Packers, Ravens, Cardinals, Lions, 49ers, Falcons. Falcons are a 9-point dog.
I don't know.
Right?
I guess San Francisco doesn't really deserve to be that big a favorite over anyone. But the line is telling you be careful because they maybe they do deserve to be that big a favorite. I don't know. Does San Francisco strike you as a team that's 10 points better than Atlanta?
No, they don't.
Don't strike me.
What about Tampa Bay over the Saints by 11 with no Sean Payton?
Saints have beaten the Bucs 4 straight times in the regular season.
Right.
5. Is it 5 this year? 5 in a row?
So then you consider COVID firing Sean Payton and the team rallies and we take the 11 points?
Very, very hard, man. This is very difficult.
You don't want to pick a game at all.
No, this is the hardest thing. This is the hardest week of the season by far. Yeah. I'll tell you, look, I have no Miami bias. As you know, we've been doing this long enough. I do not have any Dolphins bias ever. People think because I live in South Florida, I'm a huge Dolphins fan and have broken some news and have covered them through the years. It is rare that we will come on this podcast and take Miami. I think I would just lay the points and take Miami. It feels safe. It feels like the Jets just can't cover a spread, Howard. They're 1-12 against the spread.
You're not telling me anything I don't know, and I'm happy to do it. I'd be happy to do that. I'll say Miami.
I think that's probably the play. I mean, I don't think Miami should ever be that big of a favorite, but the line is telling you, yeah, they probably should. The Jets are just done. Well,
you look I'll tell you what, you look at Miami's, wins and stuff like that. You'd be surprised how many double-digit victories they've actually. Somebody pointed this out to me the other day. You'd be surprised how many double-digit point victories that we've seen for them.
They just crushed the Giants 2 weeks ago, and I would say that the Giants are very similar to the Jets, maybe even a tick better than them. They took care of the Panthers too. I don't know. I think to me it's more of an indictment on the Jets at this point. Mm-hmm. They don't look very interested. And the thing that's happening with them too is Saleh sort of has a little Staley in him. I don't know if that makes sense.
Does.
And they're not good enough to do that. They're going for it sometimes on 4th and 3 and 4th and 4, on their 40, and they're not good enough for that. Yeah. I know, to cover the spread. That's what you want with a team, by the way, with a team like the Jets. But hate to lay as a favorite, but look, we do have pretty much all dogs here. I think we could probably take one if we had to.
All right. I can dig it. I can dig it.
It's going to be a hard week, man. And listen, for everyone watching, would I advise betting on these until a half hour before the game? No, probably not. Probably not. No. And
save your money. Take your spouse to the movies or something like that. Don't.
We originally in our Super Contest picks we had the Raiders in there and we had the Eagles. Of course we did. I mean,
yeah.
The Browns had no quarterbacks. The line moved 5 points for the Eagles, and then they bailed out Washington and they bailed out Cleveland. They really did. They really bailed out Cleveland here with the Raiders getting ready to fly to Cleveland and then telling them no. I don't know. That one's a little fishy. The other game is okay, well, they weren't going to play for a couple days anyway, but we had to get off of it. I can't just really like the Eagles with Gardner Minshew as a touchdown favorite over anyone in the NFL. No way. I'm not going to do that. But if you tell me that that Mark Rippon is the quarterback for Washington at 64 years old, yes, then at that point, then I'd be willing to do that.
You don't like Garrett Gilbert? Or is it Gilbert Garrett?
Where did he come from?
Gilbert Grape? The Alliance of American Football. Oh, he was a backup for the Cowboys last year.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, Garrett Gilbert was the starting quarterback for the Orlando Apollos, who before that season went bye-bye, they were the top team.
Are we sure Garrett Gilbert and Blaine Gabbert are two different people? We're sure about that.
I can neither confirm nor deny that, Craig.
Okay. Because if you told me it was Blaine Gabbert, I would feel exactly the same way.
I'm actually more encouraged by Gilbert Grape or Garrett Gilbert or whatever his name is.
I don't know. So anyway, we may change our picks, and this live stream for you or watching on demand may not be valid 12 hours from now. So I'm sorry for that, but we're chasing down. I mean, we're hypothetically chasing down $1 million. We're chasing down a cash line of like $25,000. So we're gonna have to apologize in advance if we change the picks.
I'll tweet the picks out. You can follow me on @RotoBuzzGuy, and I will. I'll tweet out the picks and the ticket. I'll do the same thing for the Golden Nugget so that you guys can jump in on that one as well. I'll make sure to make that happen for us.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, well, then let's get the heck out of here. We'll give a big thank you to Matt Sells, our producer tonight. Always does a great job. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. This was the Picks Wise High Stakes live stream. Catch you next time.